This is the motion that we want to show the kids because we want them not only to penetrate through their opponent, we want them to get an idea of what they do with their feet. Most guys, young people come out, even college guys, they'll either step back on a double leg tackle or a tackle, they'll step away from their opponent. I think you're giving up some valuable distance if you step back. That's why when we make our movement, we make it from a side position so that we're stepping at an angle. One of the things that we try to do is we always try to create an angle on our opponent so that our opponent is always adjusting his feet. By that I mean, we're standing in this position here. Here's the angle that I like to attack this guy from. It's a lot easier for me to beat him from here and from here rather than going straight in. We have to do all three of them. You have to be able to attack him from either angle. And so what I'm constantly trying to do to my opponent is when I put my hands on him, I'm trying to create this angle either by moving him, or if I can't move him, then I'm going to move myself so that I create this angle so that he's always adjusting. He's always doing this adjustment. I'm moving this position here, he's always adjusting. That doesn't give him an opportunity to attack me. My feet are going to be in a staggered position 90% of the time when I attack. There's only there's actually two things that you can do without making this type of step. And I've rarely seen them, but the double leg drop, where you're pressuring the guy, or let's say I'm at the edge of the mat here, and I can't step back here, I'll step out of bounds, I may do something like this type of motion. That's not a real penetrating motion, but it's a tackle penetration that you can use at the edge of the mat. The three steps are the scissor step, the drop step, and the step in. That's where you just kind of raise your heel and step forward. Those are the three basic steps. The other step is, I've only seen about 3 or 4 people that could do it. It's a jump in type tackle. On this one, instead of stepping, you're actually squatting and jumping into your opponent. So, Japanese guys are the only ones that I've ever seen do this. 3 guys that can do it, Watanabe, Itaki, and Fujita, were all world-class wrestlers. But this technique, instead of stepping, it's actually you change levels, you fall off balance, you jump in. Now they could jump in and land on their feet. When I jump in, I always go to my knees. It's one of the reasons I don't like this tackle. But at the right time, in the right place, it'll score for you. Any questions on the penetration? Does that make sense? Okay, especially with young wrestlers. They tend to step and kneel. Young wrestlers, instead of stepping and jumping in, they step, they kneel down. Even a lot of our good wrestlers do that. Some wrestlers are so talented that they can make mistakes like that and get away with it. If you're a world-class wrestler, national caliber wrestler, there are a lot of things that you can do, but you can't expect the average wrestler to do it. And I would say that we're dealing with the average in high school, in college, above average in some cases, but for the most part, I really concentrate on the fundamentals. I think if you improve your fundamentals, you improve your wrestling. Okay, now, question about the stance. I don't think there's any question that the knees have to be bent. I don't think there's any question that the back should be fairly straight, although there are guys who wrestle real well in a hunchback position. John Smith, his back is like a hunchback. There are several wrestlers that are like that, but with his ability, he could probably wrestle with any kind of stance he wants. But for the average guy, I think the back has to be fairly straight. I don't like to see him come out with a hunchback, especially the young one. That gets their head down, and it keeps them from moving real well. I want the back straight. I want my knees bent. And if I'm in a square stance, my toes are pointing out at a 45-degree angle here. If I'm in a staggered stance, I'm going to be 45 degrees, almost like I'm looking here and wrestling here. That's going to be the position of my feet. Now that changes depending on my opponent. If I have an opponent that I know is going to come after my legs, then of course I'm going to get in a much lower stance. I want my head to be at the same level as his head. In other words, if I were wrestling someone who's doing a low single here, I'd probably be down here with him instead of up here dancing around. Unless I want the guy to come after my legs. If I want him to come after my legs, then I raise my stance. As I raise my stance up, he's more likely to come after my legs. If I'm trying to set up a trap for him, I'm going to have a stance specifically for this individual. Say this guy is a guy that comes after the low single. Then I'm going to have something set up, an attack when he attacks. For example, if he attacks with a low single here, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking to attack with a cradle. He attacks with a low single, I'm going to make sure I down block. Then I'm going to try to get head and arm. But I'm going to turn his penetration into my attack. And the reason I do that, because if this guy's real good on his feet, then I want to discourage him as much as possible from attacking in his favorite position. So I'm going to set up my defense with a low single. But at the same time, I have to have an offense. Every time he attacks me, I want him to feel like I'm attacking him. Is this okay?